Oh, hi everyone, Silas Silence here, and welcome to Lost Smokes. So, yeah, I guess we'll just go ahead and dive right in. As the story goes, my grandmother started smoking when she was 7. She sat in the kitchen in the mornings and smoked. She listened to AM radio gospel music. We called it her fa sa la music. She made us quilts. They smelled like cigarette smoke. All around the house were heavy glass ashtrays. Then, one day, after 80 years, she forgot that she smoked. Okay? We didn't remind her. We thought maybe it was for the best. For some folks, the end doesn't come all at once. You can see it coming from a long way off, and it moves slow. My grandmother never felt ill. She stayed in bed and slowly faded. I don't think she remembered who most people were. She didn't say much. She barely see. She could barely hear. I should have visited her more often. My aunt called my dad. Come quick, she said. My dad left for my grandmother's house immediately. When he got there, my grandmother was up and walking around. She put on her best clothes. She put on makeup. She asked my dad about family, about me, and finally she asked, "Where are my cigarettes?" It had been some time since she had forgotten. In many years she smoked in that house. She must have stashed some in a drawer, under a cushion, somewhere. They both started looking. Maybe you can help. This is the home of my grandparents. Click around the rooms to find the smokes. Well, okay then. I guess we're gonna find Grandma some smokes. That's what we're gonna do. Grandma wants her smokes, so we're gonna find them for her. Well, I guess we'll work from left to right, so. My grandfather slept in this bed. There was a small radio on my grandmother's nightstand. He played sad cowboy music at night. Lots of blue silk pajamas, my grandfather's favorite. This chest was full of my grandfather's collection of pocket knives. One big knife was the one he had from World War II. A few he had made himself. I guess we can't go into those rooms, so let's go in here. The shelf above the kitchen sink had those corn cob holders that looked like corn cobs. There were some shelves here that my grandmother kept stocked with small boxes of cereal. I like to mix brands and decided if they went well together. I never did that. That's actually kind of cool. Outside there was a pecan tree where they would fill whole bags of pecans, more than you would ever really want. There was also a shed where my grandfather would tinker. The trash was right there. The wall had a chalkboard on it that had a dirty joke about the golden years. Fa sa la, fa sa la. My grandmother listened to this radio every morning. Some days the reception barely came in. The table had glass sugar bowls on it. Okay, well I think that's all that's in this room. My grandpa killed this deer and hung its head on the wall. This was an important piece of furniture. It was my grandfather's chair. He kept many knickknacks beside him on this shelf. He would sometimes sleep sitting in his chair. I actually have a picture of my grandpa. And it was in the chair, similar. Like the last photo I have of him now. Yeah. The table's feet were the odd ball and cloth style. This was my grandmother's chair. It was pink, even though we called it grandmother's chair. She was rarely seen in it. My grandfather made some wooden blocks. I played with them for many hours right there. The hearth was made of bricks. Above the fireplace was an antique saw. My aunt painted the wooden scene on the blade. Above the mantel sat 2 stuffed fox squirrels. This rug had burn marks on it from the fire. It had a picture of a deer on it. This was the couch. I used the cushions to make forts. My dad got shocked by this lamp when he was a kid.
Growing where things should grow.
My grandfather watched TV a lot. He liked westerns. I thought they were a little boring. If I remember correctly, this drawer had batteries in it for some reason. Well, I mean, everyone has a battery drawer. I feel like every person almost ever had a battery drawer. This wall had many old photographs of family members. This desk had sewing supplies in it. There was a jar filled with buttons. One of the quilts my grandmother made. These were real feather pillows. Sometimes a feather would poke through the seams. I've dealt with those too. This used to be my aunt's room. It became the sewing room. The silk pin cushion had ladies holding hands around it. Each was a different color. Okay. Any other bedroom? Assuming this was your dad's. This was my oh, this was your grandmother and grandpa? Well, I mean, I guess that was the case at some points. My grandmother had a TV, but I don't remember her ever watching TV. My dad said she couldn't remember her watching it either. Stuffed full of clothes, but no smokes. My grandmother's house shoes. Gotta keep those feet warm. Nothing much in here. Okay, is that all in this room, I guess? This dining room table had the ball and claw style feet. When the family gathered for holidays, we used this table. On the top shelf was ceramic tea set. The spout and cups had garden scenes of ladies gathering. This baseball was on a stand and had signatures on it. I thought it must have been signed by famous players, but I think it was from one of my cousin's Little League games. When my grandmother had visitors, she sat in this chair. The green dish held candy, sometimes red and brown M&Ms, other times hard candy with foil wrappers that looked like strawberries. I know what those candy, yeah. Old people candy. One of my grandmother's glass ashtrays. It is empty now, but you can still smell the ash. This table had white marble top. Piano was out of tune, a few keys didn't work. My aunt had played it many years before. This rug was long. Anything else in here that we need to look at? I don't think so. Guess we'll head downstairs. This old thing turned out to be one of the first transistor radios ever produced. It would have been worth money if it had all its parts. There were some wooden skis hanging from the ceiling, but why? These bags hanging from the ceilings were the most random. If it didn't have a place on the wall, it was hung from the ceiling. This garbage was so stuffed with junk, my grandfather never threw anything away. The deep freeze had freezer burned squirrel meat in it. All the meat was too old to eat. After my grandfather passed and we cleaned the garage, in this chest we found a brand oil M16 bullets for a machine gun. My grandfather had 4 lawnmowers. Did any of them work? My grandfather worked at this bench for many hours. He liked fixing things, usually with glue. He was a big fan of glue. These coffee cans had an assortment of oils, nails, bolts, and screws. You never know what you're going to need. Strung on this rope was every key my grandparents ever owned, including antique skeleton keys. Well, that's cool. This basement had everything, including a secret shower. Found them. Good job. This is all to do, but feel free to keep exploring. Thanks for playing. There was an old cot down here. Everyone said my grandfather didn't know what he was doing when he made wine. There's a lot of it down here when he passed away. I opened a bottle and tried some. This was my grandfather's lunchbox from when he worked at the steel mill. My grandparents had stockpiled water and non-perishable goods during Y2K. Of course they did. Go ahead and check down here, I guess. Jars of pickled vegetables. There were hundreds of them down there. I remember well my grandmother making her way down into the basement with a basket of laundry. Just a lot of old stuff here, no smokes. My grandfather used to use his table to melt down lead for making fish hooks. It's cool that he made his own fish hooks. Oh, well. We found the cigarettes. I guess that's all to this. But, I mean, it was kind of interesting. Like, it actually, from what I read, is designed on this person's house. And, like, based on true events. Like... Yeah, smoking's bad. Like, I smoke. I'm trying to get off of it. I'm doing, e-cig, vape, and whatnot. But, like, I understand this. I felt a lot in this just because, like, it reminded, like, little bits remind me of different grandparents that have passed away. My great-grandma just passed away. Like, she made it to 100. That's freaking awesome. Like, there's not a whole lot of people in the world that make it to 100. It's pretty cool that she did, but... She just passed last month, but this was a little interesting insight. Like, I liked it. Like, it was really cool because, like, a lot of things reminded me of, like, multiple different ones of my grandparents. So, yeah, this was really cool. If you like this video, please leave a like. Let me know some of the things that you remember from your grandparents and stuff that they used to do. I'd like to hear some stories like that. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.